Now, if you are using the SUPI editor, some of you may have noticed if you click this kind of drop down that there's actually more fonts in here. So for instance, if I pick something like, I don't know, maybe something like David Libra, if I click this and apply, then what we'll see is this kind of font appear. Now, what we have as part of the SUPI editor is something that's pretty clever. We've added some systems in place, and what we'll do is add in this fonts file if it isn't a default font. And you can see here, this is actually pulling in from Google Fonts itself. So what happens if you want to pick a random font that isn't on this list, but it is on Google Fonts? How do we go about doing this? Well, in here, what we can see is this pulls this font in, but we might not have this fonts file in here. So we want to start picking our own typography. Now, if we're using something like Google Fonts, we can go to fonts.google.com. And what we can do is pick and choose from a list of, well, there's nearly 1,000 fonts in here, there may be more even later, and basically pick a style that we like. Now, for us, we might want to pick something that's not, maybe a monospace font, for instance, something that looks like that. Well, we can kind of pick and choose any of these things. Now, by default, it has the kind of trending fonts, obviously the things like most popular in here as well. Now, obviously the most popular ones are something that everyone on the web uses. So Roboto and Open Sans are used quite a lot. Now, for our creative agency, and we're a little bit of hipsters, we might want to use something that isn't the most popular font out there. So we might want to kind of pick and choose our own things. Now, if I go to here and maybe pick by newest, for instance, I might want to kind of start looking through this and go, this isn't in the SUPI editor, or if I'm not even using the SUPI editor, how do I use these kind of fonts? And I might look through this list and go, maybe this is something that I want to use instead, Fira Code. And if I click this and open it up, I'm like, maybe this will be a good fit for my project. So how do we actually go about adding this to our site? Well, it doesn't really kind of tell you very easily, but you might notice up here, we can select this font to use in our project. Kind of wish they'd make it a little bit more clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click select this font. You can do this on any Google font that you like. And then what happens is this kind of bar pops up. I'm going to click this open. And in here, it shows you how to kind of embed this into your web page. Now, there's a few ways to do this. Before we actually do this, what we're going to do is customize this font, because we might want to have regular 400 and bold 700. So I'm going to use these two fonts in my project. The reason for that is I've got this thicker font and this kind of thinner font down here. So bold and regular. Next, what I want to do is embed this into my project. Now, there's a few ways to do this. I can add it into my HTML, or I can use the @ import. Now, I'm going to use the @ import because I just like to add it in one place rather than every single page. So if I've got multiple pages, I don't want to add this to every single page. I'm just going to import it. So in here, this is a style HTML block. Now, what I'm going to do instead is just take this middle bit out, this @ import, URL, and all this stuff. So not these kind of HTML tags. I'm going to copy this in here, and I'm going to put it right at the start of my project. There we go. Now what this is going to do is it's going to import a Google font into our project to use. So instead of this having something like David Libra, what I can do now is use this typeface wherever I want. So I want to use this across the entire page. So instead of it being David Libra, I'm going to change this to, what is this going to be called? Well, down here it says Fira Code. So Fira, is it Fira or Fira? Doesn't really matter, maybe Fira. We'll call it Fira Code for now. So in here, this is going to pull this in from Google Fonts now. So now if I look at this, we'll see this kind of being in place. Now there's some obviously issues as part of this. In Fira Code, we can't have any italics. We can, it just kind of leans it over to one side. It doesn't look too good. So what I'm going to do instead is just remove that from now. So I'm just going to go down here and remove my font style italic, just because it kind of looks slanted rather than italic, or oblique as it's technically known. What we have here is something that looks a little bit more like the final design. So what we've got here is we've added a Google font. I can add multiple fonts in here. So if I want to use this Fira Code and maybe something else, I can go and click catalog and pick, let's just pick that for now. And then all I need to do is update this, pick the ones that I want, embed, and just basically copy this and put it over the first line instead. So this @ import right at the top of the page imports our Google font.